What's going on, y'all? Welcome to Locked On Nuggets. This is your host, Swiper, and I have a very special guest here with us today. And, this is Locked On Nuggets. We are the Denver Nuggets basketball community, but we, most importantly, are an international basketball community. And Miroslav has been one of the best, one of the biggest, and one of the brightest voices on the NBA content as a whole, and one of my favorite people to get to know really the last 3 years. So, Miroslav, I'm very happy that you're here. Obviously, sad underneath the circumstances, but deep respect and appreciation for you and all that you do. And so thank you so much for coming to the show.
Thank you for the kind words, Swipe. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So, yesterday we received the unfortunate news that the assistant coach for the Golden State, Dejan, he passed away. And, I know you can share with us some of the details around it, but, he was a really big figure in basketball, and not just in the NBA, but obviously international. And hearing Steve Kerr talk about him and the impact that he had on the team, and, even Mike Brown for the Sacramento Kings, and the words that he expressed about him and the impact that he had on him as a coach, but also as a person. Can you kind of give us some insight for what you heard about what happened, and then even the initial reaction that you had when you heard that Decky had passed?
Yeah, well, Decky has a lot of friends all around the world, and I'm not sure who was the leak, if I can use that ugly word for the whole thing. But we learned about him having a heart attack really early. I mean, it's hard to speculate. You have guys like Dario Šarić, who is playing at Golden State, who is Serbian speaking guy from Croatia, and he could have passed the information to somebody, maybe somebody else from the staff, because Dejan's close friends informed us about um, the severity of his stage really early, and we could have heard from some basketball people in Serbia praying for his recovery. And that sounded really scary, because when somebody has a heart attack, it doesn't have to be a super serious thing. Of course it's a serious thing, but you have people having multiple heart attacks and surviving them. But this was a really strong one. And then of course we found out when he actually died yesterday. And it was just a incredible day of mourning for him from the whole nation of Serbia, and of course especially the sports loving part of Serbian, and not only Serbian public. I've heard from different parts of former Yugoslavia in Europe, and you could have heard all of those amazing condolences from all sides of the world, and especially in the NBA. The NBA really paid their respects, and many different franchises did as well.
Right. Yeah, and I think initially when I heard about it, I didn't even realize, Miroslav, that it was like, I heard about the heart attack, but it was at dinner when they were in Utah, and it was with the whole team around. And obviously everybody, myself especially, was praying that he would just have recovery and everything else. Because I, like you, have known people that have had heart attacks before, but then the next day when the announcement came out, and I think what this, for me in particular, Miroslav, is that, like, Jokic obviously has introduced us to another part of the world. For us in Denver, and for many of us in America, I've never been to Europe. I've never had the pleasure yet of going to Europe. I've had plans now to go for quite some time. And I think some of this is, we have, and I have, a real connection now to the country, because, I mean, a lot of my support since I started this platform has been from Serbia. And there's so many people that are so welcoming and kind, and that have given their time and their energy to, even helping me get where I am. And then let alone, like, we're watching one of the best players of all time come from this country. And I think Decky has such a tremendous legacy attached, not just to Jokic individually, but just even Serbian basketball. And then now in the US, I mean, when you hear Darko talk about him, the head coach for the Toronto Raptors, when you hear Mike Brown talk about him, when you hear Obviously, Steve Kerr last year had a video going around about what Decky meant. And on top of that is like even Kevon Looney, sharing about the impact that he's had on his life as a basketball player. And Miroslav, what I love about sports and what makes sports so great is it's such a connector, because it humanizes all of us, and we all come from different walks of life, but we all have something that we take away, something that means something to us in the game. And I think when you have someone like this who's a giant and seemingly a wonderful person, who's a father and who's a husband as well, and when they pass, it reminds me of what happened even when Kobe passed in 2020. Just like it was just so sudden, and you don't really know how to reconcile with it. So it really shook me, and I just couldn't imagine, obviously, how it affected the people that actually got a chance to know him. So, obviously, my condolences go out to him and his family, and obviously to the entire nation and everyone that is affected by this, because he seemed like he was really, truly a special person.
You mentioned him being a family person, and one interesting story for me, and a parallel I make between Decky and Nikola Jokic is, you probably remember the story about Nikola coming to Denver eagerly, not because he thought the NBA is the best path for his career. It was because his wife today and girlfriend back in the day, Natalia, went to America to study, to go to university, and he wanted to be closer to her. So he didn't wait a minute to think about if he would go to Denver or not. It was just something he needed to do to stay close to Natalia. And it's a similar thing with Decky, because in Europe, when you're a head coach and you're a well-known head coach, going to America to become an assistant is not really considered like an upgrade in your career. I mean, there have been some really great European coaches like Ettore Messina that came to the NBA to become the assistant coaches, and they didn't mind that because they expanded their views a lot. But what Decky did here, and I'm just reading the tea leaves, I'm just connecting the stories. His son Nikola went to the States to play basketball at the University of Hawaii, and I believe Decky really wanted to be closer to his son. So that might have been one of the reasons why he took that role in Golden State's coaching team, and staying close to his son. I've seen the message from his son about Dejan yesterday. It was really a hard thing to see, and all my condolences to his family, who is of course having the worst possible time right now.
Do you think when you heard about this, could you maybe just even paint like why he is such, beyond the obvious, even to you personally, why do you think that Decky was such a beloved figure in Serbia? Like what do you think that it was about him that made him so well liked amongst the entire community?
Yeah, well, first of all, when he was a player, and I'm talking about the period from 98 to, let's say, 2009, he was mostly beloved by Partizan Belgrade fans, because he had 2 amazing seasons with Partizan Belgrade. He couldn't stay there longer because he was too good of a player not to go abroad after playing for Partizan. But I mentioned this before. He was like Bruce Brown to Denver, only 1 season there and then become a legend forever. Decky was like that, but Decky was a true fan of Partizan Belgrade, so he stayed close to the fans even after he left, and he actually returned to Partizan at the very end of his playing career for a short time because he was injured. He couldn't play there. But back in that time, he was mostly beloved by Partizan Belgrade fans, and he was very well respected by the other fan bases because he never did anything, for any other fan base to not to like him because of it. You have those antics from NBA players. We know how much we I mean, we don't really hate anybody, it's the sports hate,
Right.
but not even that. You never could have heard that about Decky. And then after his playing career, uh, when the times changed and all the new media appeared, you could have heard Decky more often than what you could have heard while he was playing, and everybody got the insight to how great of a person he was. And you also could have heard from his families, from his friends and his close ones, what kind of an amazing person he was. And of course, that um, that amplifies the sense of mourning uh, the nation of Serbia is feeling about his departure.
Yeah. Well, y'all, we'll be back in segment 2 to talk some more about Decky's impact and what this means, even just for Serbia and even just for the NBA. I mean, so many players, so many coaches, so many people, fans, media that have been touched by this. So we'll be back to talk about this and more in segment 2. So, y'all, as y'all know, Prize Picks is the place to be. It is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more or less than a 2 to 6 player stat projection and watch the winnings roll in. Prize Picks even offers a reboot policy that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, the player is rebooted. Prize Pick is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. And Prize Pick now offers Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your account this basketball season as well. So go to prizepick.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA. First deposit matchup. We'll be right back here. Locked On Nuggets. So we are back for segment 2. Again, this is your host, Swiper. Thank y'all so much for being here today with the friend, the homie, basketball savant, Miroslav. And we are remembering the life of Dejan, and he is just such a well-beloved figure, and no one better than I know to be able to talk about this with than Miroslav. And Miroslav, we were talking about his impact on just the NBA as a whole and what might have brought him over here, his son playing sports and everything. And then even just kind of similarly with Jokic when Natalia came over to play and just the impact that has had. When you, as far as your knowledge, he coached Jokic when he was in Serbia with Mega. I mean, this goes back years. I mean, he's a part of the reason why he is who he is to this day. And as you know, coaches don't just play a part in your life and development as a player. They play a part in your development as a person, as a human being. What do you, when you think about the relationship that they had and the impact that Decky even had on Joker in particular, what are some of the things that you even know about that?
Yeah, well, first of all, Nikola came to Mega Basket really young. He was playing one professional season before that in Vojvodina Novi Sad, and he was already putting some great numbers over there, playing against guys that were much older than him. But when he came to Mega, the only knock on him was that he was out of playing shape. He wasn't in a shape to play a serious professional basketball. So what Dejan had Nikola do back in the day was, doing a lot of physical drills, but he was also taking care of Nikola not getting bored with that, because if you only, uh, put the weights up and don't play actual basketball, that's really hard thing to do, especially for Nikola, who was a guy that was giving up on basketball like a couple of times during his career,
Right.
because he was like, yeah, this is cool, but I don't have to do this. I have other interests in my life. So I think that Dan was the perfect kind of coach, the buddy type of coach to all his players, but especially to Nikola, to keep him engaged. In those tough years, I'm sure that those were probably Nicola's most difficult years of his career, when he was starting to transform his body into a real professional athlete. And there's this anecdote from Miško Ražnatović, his agent and also owner of Mega Basket. He brought Nikola to the team, and then immediately told Miško that this guy is going to be our starter and one of our best players very soon. And Miško was like, "Come on, man, he's a project. We need him like to play in Mega for 4 years if we have a chance to get him to a real serious professional level." And of course, Deki was right. Deki, on the other hand, was never uh, uh, saying that he was some kind of a prophet. He always said, "I knew who would be great. I had no idea he could be one of the best players in the NBA. I always knew he could play in the NBA, but I had no idea that he would have a real role over there." And what's more interesting, and Deki had a lot of interviews with different kind of media, especially in Serbia, but also in the US. And when somebody would ask him, "Okay, you made Nikola Jokic what he is today," he was always, a guy that would say, "Coaches don't make players. Coaches can help players become the best versions of themselves, but players make them themselves. We are just trying to help them there." And one more interesting detail, he actually said, and this was the interview he did like literally 10 days ago on a podcast in Serbia. He said, "Yeah, I worked with Nikola for 2.5 years in Mega, and I helped him become a player that can play in Denver. But then he came to Denver, and now he's working with Ogi Stojakovic, and people need to know how much Ogi Stojakovic is influencing Nikola's game. And it's not only the technique, it's not only the details, the moves, it's also the psychological part of coaching guys. He is a guy that's in Nikola's ear for all these 9 years, and Dan always, Dan said that he believes that the impact of Ogi Stojakovic is so great and so understated by everybody. And of course, he mentioned the whole coaching staff of Michael Malone and the way Denver gave the right role to Nikola, which was a big thing for him. But he wanted Ogi's name to be there, out there as Nikola's, one of the biggest guys in Nikola's career.
Well, I guess even to kind of as we tie in segment 2, when you think about the legacy that Deki is leaving with us and leaving with Serbia, and I think of all of the Serbian and just not even just, but even just the Balkan community, but just how many people are here in the States. When you think about his legacy, what do you think should be or could be some of the biggest takeaways about him as a person and him as a coach that as we move forward together as a community, as we're mourning and then as we're trying to find a way to live life in this new reality, what do you think some of our biggest takeaways should be?
Yeah, well, first of all, Serbia will always mostly remember Deki as an amazing basketball player. A guy that won 2 gold medals for Yugoslavia, one when he was a young guy on the under-22 European Championship, when he won gold medal together with Marko Jaric, for instance. And then in 2001, when he won with the senior team, the Eurobasket, that was one of the most impressive wins in Eurobasket history. Yugoslavia was beating everybody by 20 points on average. It was like close to Dream Team in 92, like the dominance they showed in 2001 Eurobasket. And those are the things that most of the let's say regular people will remember him for. The other part, his coaching part in Serbia, is not so much stated as his playing career, because he was a coach in Mega Basket, and Mega Basket is not your typical basketball club in Serbia or in Europe, because it is not a club that competes for the championships. is a club that's a farm of players, and the sole purpose of this club is to produce great players that will move on and become even greater when they leave Mega. So he didn't have a lot of trophies to his name as a coach, but one thing we discovered today is that the basketball arena where Mega Basket plays and trains, called the Basketball Factory, will be known as Dejan Milojević Arena from tomorrow or something like that. So that's the kind of impact you can see there, and I'm really happy to see his imprint in the NBA coaching community. It's a small group of people. Everybody knows everybody, and when you hear such great, kind words from great people like Mike Brown, like Steve Kerr, like Darko Rakovic, then you can feel how big of an impact he made among his peers in the time of his playing days, but also in his coaching days that came up later.
Yeah. Well, Miroslav, I just even appreciate you being able to kind of embody some of these great qualities of who he was and the impact that he had on the basketball, and I think the general community feel around Decky and just what he did. And he was only 46 years old, extremely young. He was a father, he was a husband, and those are the things that matter most. And I had a chance to see him once, and it was this last Christmas, actually, my first media day for Christmas, and I got a chance to see him and Joker interacting together a little bit. So, even for those memories on my own, that's the only memory I can speak to. But I'm just even thankful that I got to see that, and the things that I've heard about him, they all seem like he was just a quality person. So, we just wanted to take a couple segments to talk about him and his impact. We'll talk a little bit more hoops on the other side in segment 3, but wanted to make sure that everybody that is connected to Decky and then Serbians at large and the NBA basketball community international, we are all feeling and all mourning the loss of Decky. And so we shout out to him and to his family and everybody else affected by it. But y'all, we'll be right back here in segment 3. So y'all, when you're ever trying to go somewhere, you're trying to go to a concert, you're trying to go to an event, to a venue, it can be really difficult to find good deals on tickets. Y'all, Game Time is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, theater events near you. You can go through the Game Time app. You can time last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals. Easy to find them. You can see where you're going to sit, the cost, and then you can find better seats, better prices, all through the Game Time app. It's Game Time, the only ticketing app that gives you the complete peace of mind with your purchase. So make sure you take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We'll be right back here. Locked On Nuggets. Y'all, we are here for segment 3, final segment here at Locked On Nuggets. My friend Miroslav, the man himself, the legend himself. Miroslav, we got a chance to see some basketball the other day. We've got Joker versus Embiid, Sixers versus Nuggets, Jamal Murray, Tyrese Maxey. We got a chance to see it all. The Nuggets lose 126-121. What are some of your even just initial takeaways that when you watched that game and you saw the Nuggets kind of scrambling, playing all these different defenses, and the score was 78-78 at halftime?
Yeah, I mean, you can point out the Nuggets not playing good defense in a big chunk of game and having some bizarre rotation ideas, doubling hard on Embiid, then leaving some really good shooters wide open. That's that's not what they would do in a playoff environment for
Right.
sure. At least I hope so. But
Miroslav, they're doubling Embiid at the top of the key. Tyrese
yeah,
Maxey's 5 feet away.
yeah,
They're just like, here, take it. It's just,
yeah,
I was losing my mind.
yeah. I hope they were trolling. I hope they wanted to give the false, sense of security to the Sixers, because that really was bad. Because on the other side, if you think about it, Nuggets had almost a perfect offensive game against Philadelphia, right. And that's actually what frustrates me the most. If you think about the individual play of all the players in Nuggets rotation, almost all of them had great offensive performances. I mean, you can point out that Jamal Murray lost his legs in the fourth quarter, had some nasty turnovers, and that, of course, contributed to a loss. But outside of that, Jamal was really good for the first three quarters. Nikola had a great game, even though he didn't have a lot of assists. Some of that was, missed shots, but some of that was actually great defensive plan from Philadelphia. They wanted to make him not a passer, but a hockey passer. They were rotating hard on his passes as well, not only doubling him. So that was, I think, a really good game plan from their side. But Michael Porter hit some really good shots, had some really, really, really good offensive possessions. KCP was good on defense, at least, solo defense or individual defense. It's really hard to find a hole in Denver Nuggets' offense, but on the other side, the defense was pretty awful, and you cannot have that kind of bad defense against, and I have to say, against an elite team like Philadelphia is this season.
Yeah, it was so interesting. First quarter, I think it was Nuggets had like a 172 offensive rating, and they were barely winning the game. I was just like, I'm watching y'all. Like Embiid had that step back off the baseline when he shot over Joker. I was like, all right, cool. That's a great shot for Embiid. He got the ball mid-range. Embiid made 3 3-pointers. So this is how I know. I knew once Embiid made his first 3-pointer, I said, oh yeah. This is going to be a jump shooting game. He made 6 jumpers, I think, in the first quarter. And I was just like,
he had 30 points outside of the paint. What are we talking about? Like, I understand the strategy, make Embiid hit his outside shots, and sometimes he won't, because his numbers are not actually that great from the outside. He's not an elite 3-point shooter. It just happened to really shoot really well against Denver. But it reminded me of a game Jokic had against Giannis in Belgrade a couple of summers ago on the World Cup qualifiers, when he was like, okay, I'm going to let Giannis shoot as many threes as he wants, and I won't let him get into the paint. And the same thing happened. Giannis had 40 points. Greece did lose that game because that was a good strategy, but it almost backfired on Team Serbia back then, because, if you let it's not a subpar shooter, but not an elite shooter, shoot whatever he wants, he'll get into a rhythm at some point. So I hope next time we see them play, and that's in a week, that Denver will be willing to give some different looks to Joel Embiid and the rest of the Philadelphia team.
I think the person that was MVP for Philly was Tobias Harris. Missed 2 shots. 2. Was getting to the rim, finishing in transition. He was shooting over Christian Brown. He was tough contested mid-range shots. And him staggering with Maxey when Embiid was off. And if that's the thing, if Tobias can do that consistently, they can make a finals run to the finals. I'm not saying they'll beat everybody on the way, but I think if Tobias plays like that, then it's another story. But I think in a regular season setting, I think what the Nuggets did is fine. I think in the playoffs is where because I think this is the thing I saw in the game. So Joker shot 2 threes, but they weren't in process threes. They were both rush threes, and one of them was a corner 3. That he just wasn't in the process of doing that. Joker wasn't shooting the ball a lot. What's so funny, Miroslav, is that he ended up being, I think, 11 of 20. Yeah. But I think 6 of those misses were like putbacks. and then he would get the rebound, and he had 11 offensive
Yeah,
rebounds.
and also
So,
he had several consecutive misses at the end when the game was
right,
already over. He was trying to
right.
push them back, and yeah, he had a really great efficiency wide game there. I agree. A lot of 11 offensive rebounds. Come on, man, 11
Yeah.
offensive rebounds.
Now, that's what I'll say. I think Jokic was trying really hard to dominate the board because once the Sixers played with Embiid off, like it just gave them left wiggle room on the board because now Jokic, if you got Tobias Harris on him, well, boom, boom, get out the way, get under the rim, and Embiid can't see him, so Embiid can't like time the jump to get up there with Joker. So I actually really like how both teams played. I was impressed with how Embiid played. I think Maxey was funny. It's like he wasn't as efficient as he normally is. But again, if they don't get Maxey those wide open three-pointer, then I think the story is a little bit different. And Batum, he's been doing this all year, but that shot he had when Embiid threw it across the court and Maxey caught it high and finished high, I was just like, I knew as soon as you got the ball, touch your ball, get your hands up. He's going to shoot it right in there. So I am actually really excited to see that game in Denver, if everybody is obviously available and healthy. But quickly, what do you think about the game versus the Celtics in Boston? The Nuggets haven't won at Boston in a minute. And remember, Jokic, when he had Facu on the court, had 43 there. But, Facu played like 17 straight minutes that kind of got iced out the rest of the game. Last year, it was November 22nd. I think it was like November 2022. Jamal just got back from injury. What do you expect to see tomorrow versus Boston? Do you think this is the game the Nuggets can win? And if you had a score prediction, what do you think it might be?
Well, Jamal have a history of great games against Boston. We all remember that game when Kyrie threw the ball out of bounds after he was pissed because Jamal wanted to go for 50. And I don't know. I mean, that Denver Nuggets go the way Jamal Murray goes. If he has a great game, it's really hard for anybody to beat him because Nikola is so consistent. And we've seen some really, really good games from Michael Porter recently. I actually hope that they will use the first quarter to enforce Aaron Gordon on them because I don't want Aaron Gordon to be iced out, as a non-shooter and used as a weapon against Denver Nuggets. I really hope they will involve Aaron Gordon so much that first of all, I hope that they will make Boston play big and not 5 out as much.
Yeah.
Because I think they're the most dangerous. I feel they're the most dangerous when they're playing without Al Horford on the court, but
so
we will
Drew,
see.
Derek, Jason, Jalen, and Kristoff.
Yeah. I mean that's a great 5. I mean Al Horford is a great player, but their offense and their transition game is just amazing when they have 5 guys that can all reliably shoot threes. It's a tough opponent. I'm kind of a downer here. I don't expect the Nuggets to win against Boston. I'm preparing myself for them not winning there, and of course, silently hoping they actually will. So that will make my pleasure double. But do you think that Boston is the biggest favorite out east this year?
Yeah, but I keep telling people, bro, I just did a show with Jason Temp yesterday, bro. If the Heat are healthy, you're not going to convince me that they're just going to go away. That's the thing. Like, they're going to be great in the half court. Their defense is going to be set. They're going to be locked into what they're supposed to do. They're not going to make a lot of mistakes. They're going to have shooters. If Hero, Duncan, and Jaime are healthy around Bam and Jimmy, and then they got Haywood, Heisman, comes on the bench, Kyle Lowry, and Kevin Love, and Caleb Martin. That's 9 players I know they're going to give you their best. I'm sorry, Miroslav. I think there's a world in which, say, the Heat are like the 7 seed because they just, they're playing around in the regular season, and then the Bucks with no defense is to suit the 2 seed. I can absolutely see a scenario where seeing that matchup.
They could murder them, yeah. I agree. That's a great take. I actually agree with that. I actually think that Miami can can sneak up on everybody. Nobody's talking about Miami being a
Right.
powerhouse out east right now. There are like 4 teams everybody thinks that are better than Miami, but I wouldn't be surprised at all to see them in the finals again. And that would be
Right.
the funniest story ever to me. I would love that.
Back-to-back finals for Denver and Miami. Wait, so let me ask you this before we go. If we haven't had a chance to talk about this, who do you think is the biggest threat if the Nuggets are going to go on another championship run? Who's the biggest threat in the West for them?
I want to say Minnesota. I want to give them their flowers. They have a really, really good matchup against Denver. They can put a lot of pressure both on Nikola and on Jamal, which is really important for any team to have a chance against the Nuggets. I just don't think they have their hearts broken enough already to go all the way to the NBA Finals. I don't want to say I'm not scared of anybody. The Clippers look really good, and they have a lot of big bodies as well. Although Zubac has a pretty serious injury that will take him off the court for like 4 weeks or something like that.
No, at least because he reevaluated in 4 weeks.
Oh yeah, that's right. It might be longer. So that's tough for them. He's their best big man. So I don't know, man. It's kind of. I feel like the West is has more parity than even last year, and I actually don't think the Nuggets are as big of a favorite in the West like they were last year. But that might change. They might string a 10-game series when we see all the powers of them, and then we'll say, okay, we don't care about April. Just give us the playoffs and let the games begin.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And Miroslav, we'll definitely have to talk again, y'all. But, Miroslav, thank you so much for coming on today to do this episode and talking about Decky and being willing to share. It's really important, I think, for people to hear those stories. And, we're going to hold on to his memories for, obviously as long as we're doing this. And so truly shout out, obviously, to you. And thank you so much to Serbia and to what you all have contributed to the basketball community, and that's even the legacy that Decky obviously was able to carry. And so that's going to be it for Locked On Nuggets, y'all. Matt and I will be here tomorrow to talk about that Boston Celtics Denver Nuggets preview. Make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe. We're continuing to build up the Locked On Nuggets community, and we will see y'all on the other side.